everybody. Welcome back to Artful Journeys with Mrs. Gerald. I'm sorry I can't see you, but if I take my phone off of the little holder that it's on and try to say hello with my face and then put it back on, I'm sure I'll just mess up everything. So for now, I'll just have to say hello with my hands and get started with our Bible verse today before we dive right into a new artist for today. So our verse today is from Zephaniah 3:17. It says, "The Lord your God is the Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing." And I'm not sure if I've shared this verse with you before, but when I read this verse, I have a picture in my mind of a loving father who is so glad to have his little child up on his lap. Maybe they're reading a story together. Maybe they're just snuggling and talking about the day. Maybe they're dreaming of something fun they want to do together. But I just think of that wonderful time of that father snuggling his little child and maybe singing a song as the child falls asleep in his arms. And you know, that little child is you and me. And that Father is our Heavenly Father. And He loves us more than we can ever know. And so this verse tells us just a little bit about His love for us. And I'm very thankful for that. Here's a verse, a saying, I guess you would say, a quote that I have here in my house, and I really like this one. It's by Oswald Chambers, and it says, "We have to pray with our eyes on God, not on the difficulties." And I'm thinking that we're in a funny situation right now where we're not meeting face to face for connections because of this coronavirus thing going around, and we're trying to keep from sharing germs. And one of these days we'll be meeting back together again. But until then, I know a lot of people are praying. I'm praying. But I think this is a great reminder that we don't want to pray with our eyes on the coronavirus, worried about anything. We want to pray with our eyes on God because He's the one who's going to do all the great things. So a good reminder to pray with our eyes on God, not on the difficulties. Okay, I'm going to set that aside and we're going to get started. So I'm going to move my colored pencils aside, move my paints, and here is our new artist bio sheet for this week. Our artist is Lorraine Lutz, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, actually in a minute, I'm going to hold off. After I read through this, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and then make sure that you have the handouts, but we'll get to that in a minute. In the meantime, I wanted to introduce you to Lorraine Lutz. She's a contemporary artist. There's her picture. And I'm sorry, something's wrong with my printer, so we're not getting very good color out of my color printer. It looks terrible this week. Hopefully yours will look better. But Lorraine Lutz is a contemporary artist. That means she is alive today. She looks about like that, except her hair is a little longer now. She is South African, which means she lives in the southern part of Africa, but the country is actually called South Africa. And she is known for her miniature watercolor artworks. You can see here a couple of examples. Look how her tiny paintbrush is here and how tiny her painting is compared to it, or this pencil, and how detailed that is. It's really amazing. I've got some others here. It was hard to get a whole bunch in, even though they're small. Let me read this to you. Lorraine Lutz is a South African artist, best known for her miniature paintings. In recent years, she has had art shows in London, New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Sydney, which is in Australia. Her art is known as Paintings for Ants because her artworks are all in circles just 3 centimeters in diameter. That's the size of this circle on your handout. So all of her paintings are this big or smaller, like this avocado would probably fit right in about like that. So she didn't even fill out the whole circle with that avocado. Same with some of these other things. This one she did, and that one she did. but that's a small space to get so much detail. And when you look on her website, which I'll have you do in a little bit, you'll be amazed at the details she gets in these tiny, tiny paintings. Well, the reason she started painting this small was so that she could finish a painting in about an hour, because that's all the time she had. She was a busy person and she had a job. She wanted to paint a little bit. As her art became more popular, she has spent more time on adding details to her paintings, so that now each one takes several hours, sometimes up to 8 hours. Here's a fun fact. She never planned to become an artist as a career. She dropped an art class in high school, but she did later go to art school in college. After that, though, she said, I'm not going to paint anymore, and she stopped painting. And she tried to follow a different career path. She had a job, but then she started painting again for fun for herself. She posted her pictures to Instagram, inviting viewers to suggest ideas for her to paint. Well, word got out, and she became more and more popular. The rest, they say, is history. And I've got her website listed here if you and your parents want to go check out her website and look at some of her artwork. And there's a note here that on one of her pages, there are a couple more videos to watch. They're short, but they're fun. You can watch her actually painting one of her little tiny paintings. Okay, so I'm going to say for you in just a moment to pause and make sure. Here's what you're going to need as we continue the video. You're going to need this handout. You're going to need this handout, and you're going to need this handout. Okay? So I'm going to have you pause and then come right back. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, are you back? Did you get your handouts? Okay, so hopefully you've got your handout on Lorraine Lutz, and you can have that for reference. It's fun just to see the detail she has in her different paintings. Also, I've sent a link to your parents, and you can do this before you start our lesson or after, but I would encourage you to look at some of the videos that I'm sending you to see her artwork and see her at work. They're fascinating, and I think you'll really enjoy them. And it's just fun to see someone who's doing something traditional, but also a little bit different. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make a painting or an artwork for ants. I'm not sure if you have paints at home, so I'm gonna say today for everything we're doing, here's what you're gonna need. I'm gonna set this one aside. Today, you're going to need a pencil. This is my pencil for today. So you'll need a pencil. You may want to use a Sharpie marker or another black marker. You might want to just use a regular pen. Let me grab one here. You could even use a ballpoint pen if you wanted to for the practice, not for our final piece, but you could use a black pen or a pencil. You're going to probably want some colored pencils, or you could use some colored markers, which I don't have here, but you could. You could also use watercolor paints today for our final project if you want to, and if you have some paper that's good for paint. I probably wouldn't put watercolor paint on regular copy paper. It'll work okay, but not great. It might just soak right through and make it'll just make the paper really want to kind of tear a little bit. So I would say if you don't have watercolor paper, probably stick to colored pencils if you have them, or markers. But you know, it never hurts to try. So if you've got watercolors and you want to try it, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so here's your circle challenge. Today, I've given you this handout, 2 things you could do here, and I've got the instructions at the top. Using the provided circles as a base, create as many tiny drawings as you can think of. You could do it 2 ways. You can draw objects that are round in shape, like the examples shown here. So here's an eyeball, here's a donut, here's a soccer ball, and you can probably think of some other things. I have a little list here of some things I could try. And you may be hearing my son Reed come in the door in a minute. He's just getting back from a trip to Hawaii. He's been there all week with his college choir, and they've had a great time singing in churches and serving on some projects there. And I'll put a link to some of their videos in the instructions for today in case you want to see what their choir is like. There's 130 students in their choir, and they're really good. So anyway, I'm going to keep going. So see how many things you can make that are round. Maybe you would make a bicycle wheel or a sand dollar. Maybe a pizza, or how about this? Can you tell what this is if I draw this? I'm going to draw it with a pen so you can see it. Would you know what this is? That's kind of my version of a blueberry. I'm not sure if that looks like a blueberry, but you know, they have that little thing right there. Like I have a blueberry. How about something like this? I'm going to put a dot here in the middle. What does this look like to you? I can hear Reed there. I'm so glad he's home. We have missed him this week. I'll have to give him a big hug in a minute. But if I stop the video, then I have to start all over. So I'm not going to do that. All right, so there's maybe a lemon or a lime slice with a couple of seeds there. Who knows? You could do a frisbee or an apple or anything you want. Here's another thing you could do, though. Everything you do doesn't have to be a circle. You might want to put something in your circle that's not round. You could have a seashell or maybe a teacup and saucer. Hi, Reed.
Hello.
I'm doing a video for my class. You want to come say hello to everybody?
Sure.
Say hi, but you can't.
Hello.
You'd have to stick your face under here for them to
Oh, I
see you.
see. Oh, wow. That's a little cool little
Yeah.
contraption you got there.
Hi, honey. Love you.
Love you too.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll come see you in a few minutes.
All right.
All right. So, okay. There's a teacup, and so maybe I would do something like that, right? And maybe there'd be a design there and something like that. Or maybe I would want to draw a cute little house. You can see how even with a pen, it's a little hard to get the details when you're going so small. So I'm going to change and I'm going to switch to a pencil, because with a pencil, I can get some nice little details. Can see things a little bit better. Let's see, I would do maybe right, some shingles and things like this, and maybe some little stones, because Lorraine Lutz's work is very small and she's very fine and careful with her details. And maybe there's a little stone path. And some bushes here. Who knows what? All sorts of things could be here. Some mountains in the background. Maybe some nice fluffy clouds. And a tree. Something like that. Anyway, so you could have something in your circle that's not actually round, but it fits inside that round space. And the sky's the limit. It could be anything. It could be food. It could be a place. It could be a person. It could be just an object from around your house. It could be, I don't know. I'm looking all around my dining room, seeing all sorts of things it could be. It could be a butterfly. It could be a bumblebee. It could be an Easter egg. It could be a shamrock. Oh, let's do a shamrock. You could do a shamrock, since we did those shamrocks last week. I'm going to do some shamrock shapes. Something like that. And then I could come back and color that in with my colored pencils and give it some shading. All sorts of things. Okay, so this is part one. The circle challenge part one is just to fill up all these circles with either round items or other items that fit within the circle. Then pick your favorite one, the one that you like the best, and I'm gonna set that aside. Then, I don't know if you can see this. This says circle challenge part two. You can cut on the dotted lines here. There's a very light circle in the middle to give you a shape to work with. Take whatever you thought was your favorite one here, or maybe a new one, and draw it again in here. And then add color and make it special. Because what I think is really special about Lorraine Lutz's work is it's beautiful, it's detailed, she spends a lot of time on it, and she leaves all this white space around it when it's done, so your focus goes right in to this wonderful little work of art right here in the middle. So I think it's important to leave the white space around. So if you cut on the dotted line, you'll have lots of white space around your circle in the middle. So let's say you're going to do this on watercolor paper though instead, because you want to use paints and you don't want to paint on this paper. What are you going to do? Well, here's what you could do. I have a sample here and it's coming. Okay, so let's say that I cut some paper out about the same size. And you're wondering, how am I going to get a circle? Well, here's what I did. I have a lid to a bottle. It did say Mom's Treat because I was saving this special bottle of juice that I didn't want all my kids to drink in one day. Anyway, that's the lid. And you could take your lid and just put it in the middle of your paper, trace around, and there you'd have a great circle to do artwork in right there. So that's what I did here. I decided I wanted to draw a peony, which is a type of flower with a lot of petals. So I penciled it in. You can see my circle. I'm trying to stay inside the circle. And I penciled in kind of lightly, enough so I could see it, penciled in my petals, and then I took my colored pencils and I colored it in. So I used these very carefully and I went slowly and I did some layers of color. I put in some light pink and then some yellows and then some darker pinks and some browns and grays, and I just kept working on it very slowly because I wanted this to be really pretty when I was all done. So I'm not quite all done, but I'll show you what I would do as my final steps. When you get finished or you're just about finished, take your eraser and I'm going to erase the outside circle because I don't need that. My flower doesn't really touch the edge of the circle, so I don't need it. Maybe if you were doing a planet, maybe you want to do Saturn or Venus or the moon or a lemon slice, that might go right out to the edge of the paper. But this one's gonna not do that. So there I would have my final flower. I've erased my outside lines, and the last part is that you'll know this if you have seen Lorraine Lutz's work, is I have to give it a title. She titles everything with the date. So I'm going to do the same thing today. I'm going to say in a very tiny, let's hope I can do this. I'm going to say 15 March 2020. I'm going to put quotation marks around it. Here's what it looks like up close. I hope I'm centering that. All right, there it is, 15 March 2020. That's the date today. And there is my miniature artwork. I also want to show you some samples that Talia created today. She got wind of this and she couldn't wait till tomorrow. So she painted, let's see, what did she start? She started with a hot dog. She wanted to do a little miniature hot dog. She's not quite finished with that. But look how cute that looks all by itself, right? If you had this just on a piece of white paper. bigger. That would be so cute. Can you tell what this one is? You might be able to tell. Let me put it up close. Right over here. That is a chocolate chip cookie with a few little crumbs here. How about this one? Let's see, do I have that centered? There we go. About like that. That is a little, looks like a blueberry muffin. And she did some others here. She did this one first, and then as she got better at it, she did some other ones here. And so there, she's got a lime cupcake, a blueberry, an orange, and a raspberry. And look at those details she put in. She did use paint. She used watercolor, and she penciled in very lightly her design first. Then she used the smallest brush she could find. And so that's one thing you want to make sure you use a small brush. Very delicate strokes. She was very careful with her water. The other thing you can do is get a piece of paper to test your colors on first so that you don't make any mistakes on your good piece. So you could do that. And that was it. That was her trial run today. I think she did a great job. There's something about working in miniature that is so appealing. I don't know what it is to us humans, but we love things that are miniature. So I hope you have fun with this project. I'm also including today, I don't have a printout right here, but I'm going to include it in the things I send to your mom and dad, a coloring page if you want to use it for reading books. I thought it was so cute for coloring, and you can write the names of the books on the spines of the books. Maybe you're going to do a lot of extra reading during this next month or two, and I thought that might be fun. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today. I hope you really enjoyed learning about Lorraine Lutz today, and that you have a fun time creating your own miniature works of art. All right, that's all for now. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later, and I am praying for you. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.